Episode 2: Choosing Yourself, the Courage to Exist for You. You're listening to Conversations with Courage, where quiet strength meets bold stories and real conversations about what it means to live courageously. Presented to you by Amara Counseling and Breaking Brown, Building Bold. I'm your host, Supreet Gupta, a licensed associate marriage and family therapist. Last time, we talked about courage, how it shows up in different shapes and shadows. Sometimes it's loud and dramatic, other times it's quiet, showing up in everyday chaos, like a whisper saying, "Keep going." Today, I want to talk about a kind of courage that doesn't always get celebrated. It doesn't look brave on the outside. It looks selfish, messy, and sometimes confusing. It's the courage to choose yourself. The sister who showed me the mirror. In 2016, I went through one of the toughest phases of my life. It was a turning point. I had no idea what to do or which way to go. And then one day, my sister looked at me and asked, "What do you want?" I froze. Yet again. Pretty sure I gave her the same expression you give when a waiter asks if you want still or sparkling, and you suddenly question your entire existence. No one had ever asked me that before. Not in that way. I was always attuned to everyone else's needs: parents, partner, kids, friends, work. But what about my needs? What did I want? What did I want? It was like my sister had switched on a light in a room I didn't even know existed. Growing up, I was carefree in my own world. But after marriage, I became the responsible one, the problem solver, the "it's fine, I'll handle it" one. You know the type: family fixer, peacekeeper, emotional first responder. I could juggle 10 things at once, but couldn't tell you what actually made me happy. So when my sister asked that question, I laughed it off. Want? I want everyone to just do what they're supposed to do. Classic deflection. She just smiled. You know, that "yeah, nice try" kind of a smile, and said, "Well, that's a you problem, because people won't always do what you want them to do." And we both laughed at the impossibility of my demand, and that was the end of the conversation. But the question, "what do I want?" stuck with me for weeks. Months, actually. If I'm being honest, for years. It stuck with me for years. Every time I was making dinner, driving, or scrolling, her voice would pop in. "What do you want?" No, I didn't know. I had spent so many years being the glue, living my life from one hour to another and trying to survive and hold everything, that I forgot I was also a person. That's when my sister became this quiet guide, not by giving advice or lecturing me, but by reminding me I exist too. I matter too. She taught me to pay attention, to notice what felt heavy, what felt light, and what felt right, sometimes with brutal honesty. Like the day I was ranting about being fine, and she said, "Fine is not a feeling." Ouch, but true. That's what sisters do, right? They love you and annoy you in equal measure, and somehow it works. Looking back, that was my first lesson in choosing myself, realizing I didn't actually know me. And that awareness that I was missing from my own life, it was both painful and freeing. My sister sat through it all with me, combing through the kinks, validating that it's okay to choose me, reminding me to stop dying in guilt all the time. She'd joke, "You'll die of guilt if you ever truly choose yourself." But she also worked through that guilt with me, not by lecturing, but by simply normalizing and validating that even though I'm a mother and a wife, it's still okay to choose me. She brought balance in my life and taught me what balance actually looks like. She taught me how to care for others without constantly abandoning myself. She was my first lesson in boundaries. She showed me the pitfalls and kept nudging me towards freedom. The friend who held the mirror steady. After my sister helped me see myself, a dear friend helped me trust myself. You know how some friends just show up exactly when you need them, with zero judgment and maybe snacks? She was that friend, minus the snacks. There were days I was so unsure of my voice, my direction, my decisions, and she'd say, "You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop pretending you don't know anything." She saw potential in me I had downsized. When I would say, "Oh, I'm just trying this little project," she'd cut in. "Just? Don't say just. Say, you're building something." She'd point out the things I did naturally, how I lit up helping someone grow, or how being creative brought me alive. She'd say, "You've always had this thing. You just forgot to use it for you." We all need that person who edits the word just out of our vocabulary and turns it into something empowering. She sat me through the messy middle, the days I wanted to crawl back into old patterns. She didn't push me to get out of that pattern. She reminded me. Her courage was steady and contagious. Together, my sister and my friend became the air beneath my wings, one helping me rise and the other helping me stay. And their roles change depending on which way the wind blows. What choosing yourself looks like in real life. I was lost on what choosing myself even meant. And honestly, a lot of my clients ask the same question: how do I choose me? Just like them, I was confused at first too. Was it me going on a solo vacation? Was it treating myself to a spa day or a new outfit? Was it ignoring everyone and doing whatever I wanted? Or was it putting up walls so no one could hurt me again? I didn't know. Over the years, I have learned that, that choosing yourself isn't always glamorous or Insta-worthy. It's deeper than that. It means including yourself in the care, love, and attention you so easily give everyone else. It means listening to your own needs, honoring your boundaries, and trusting that what you feel matters too. It's noticing when you're exhausted and letting yourself rest. It's saying no without writing a 3-paragraph apology text. It's believing you deserve joy that isn't earned through sacrifice. Choosing yourself is learning that you are also someone worth showing up for. It's remembering that peace doesn't always look productive. For me, choosing myself started small. 5 minutes of sitting down with my coffee while watching CNN. You know, the ultimate reality TV show, especially during elections. Evening walks without feeling compelled to respond to every text. And taking a nap when I needed one. Those tiny acts slowly led me to take bigger steps, like finding those 20 seconds of courage to say, let me think about it, instead of a reflexive yes, and making decisions without feeling the need to defend or justify them. And slowly, I started taking my life back, minute by minute, hour by hour. And those tiny moments became my mini vacations. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was starting to feel alive. I was starting to feel alive again. I began making decisions not from fear of rejection or people pleasing, but from a new question. What do I want? I stopped chasing calm and I started creating calm inside myself first. I reminded myself constantly that peace doesn't always have to look productive. And by any means, my growth was not linear. And my progress still isn't linear. There are still days I slid back into old roles, trying to fix everything and everyone. Then I hear my sister's voice. What do you want? And my friends, focus. You're getting distracted. And that becomes my cue to stop spiraling and to go make chai. Because honestly, chai fixes about 60% of emotional crises, or at least distracts me from them. It's my grounding technique. Scientifically unproven, but personally confirmed. Choosing yourself isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. You'll lose the rhythm sometimes, but keep coming back. Why choosing yourself feels wrong. Let's be honest. Most of us weren't raised to choose ourselves, especially if you grew up in a culture or family where worth was measured by how useful you were or are to everyone else. Choosing yourself can feel like betraying someone, even for men. You say no to a family dinner, you're selfish. You take an hour to rest, you're lazy. You start setting boundaries, and suddenly you have changed. And yeah, I've changed. That's the point. It's wild how we can go from being most reliable to most difficult overnight, all because we learned the word no. Here's what I've learned as a therapist, as a mother, wife, friend, etc., that choosing yourself doesn't mean rejecting others. In fact, not choosing yourself is rejecting yourself. Choosing yourself means including yourself in the circle of care you have built for everyone else. When I started doing that, saying no, pausing before agreeing, asking what I needed, or just doing what I needed for myself, I was met by guilt. That's how deep the conditioning runs in us. We mistake exhaustion for loyalty. And culturally, it's layered. For women, we're taught sacrifice is noble, silence is strength, rest is indulgence. And men get a twisted version too. For them, it's rest only counts if it's recharging for tomorrow's productivity. But none of this builds resilience. This builds resentment. Here's the truth. Guilt does not show up because you're doing something wrong. Guilt shows up because you're doing something different. So how do you stop guilt from being in charge? First, question it. Is this guilt or is this something else? Then name it. If it's guilt, name the guilt. If it's a fact, name the fact. If it's reality, whose reality is it? Second, get curious. Who taught me this? Who taught me it's not okay for me to take a nap in the afternoon if I need one? And ask, who benefits from me feeling guilty? Third, choose yourself anyway. You're allowed to feel guilty and still set boundaries. Courage isn't comfort. Courage is discomfort with intention. And finally, self-compassion. Of course, this feels uncomfortable. It's new. Guilt is loud at first. But as you grow and your boundaries grow, guilt learns to be quiet. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. But somehow, we're still trying. And today's generation pours it with oat milk. If guilt shows up when you choose yourself, take it as a sign that growth is happening. Your turn. Okay, as you know, I'm a therapist. I will be prescribing some homework. Otherwise, how will growth happen, right? So before we close, ask yourself, what's one small way I can choose myself today without guilt? Not the big dramatic version, just something simple. Maybe say no. Maybe rest. Maybe enjoy your meal without multitasking. Whatever you choose to do, notice how it feels. Write it down or make a mental note. And if guilt shows up, say, "Hi, old friend, you're not driving today." Because every time you choose yourself, even in small ways, you build the muscle of courage. Reflection. Choosing yourself isn't always obvious at first, and the courage to choose may look like climbing mountains or making big changes, but it can also be sitting quietly with yourself and saying, "I matter too." It can also mean allowing yourself to feel what you have been suppressing, the sadness, the anger, the despair, the grief, or it can mean speaking up at the dinner table instead of saying what maintains the peace. Choosing yourself is permission. It's permission for you to exist again. Choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. And the most beautiful part is that you don't have to figure out how to choose yourself all alone. Surround yourself with people who will help you choose you and empower you and remind you how to be alive instead of just surviving, how to live instead of sacrificing and suppressing. And if you're wondering where to start small, minute by minute, hour by hour, because that's how you move from merely existing to truly living. Next week, we'll keep building on this theme with a new conversation, finding yourself. Because once you have chosen yourself, the next step is learning who that person really is. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation resonated, share it with someone who might need that reminder that they exist too. And remember, quiet strength, bold stories, real courage always begins within.